I know our viewers, our listeners are really excited to hear what the heck is Hustle Pretty. Your bio is incredible, but I have been following you not very long, but I was instantly like, boom, we got to get her on the show because I just think everything you talk about resonates. Obviously, you've helped a lot of women in many areas. We're going to hear all about your story. That's why we're on today. So without further ado, let's introduce you. Tell us a little bit about your background in a nutshell. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you get here?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here. And likewise, like I know we connected just a couple weeks ago and all your content is just so inspiring and so aligned. So I'm thrilled to be here and to be talking to you. But for a little bit about me, so I started out as a job hustler, you could say. I was for 7 years working 5+ jobs at all times, 7 days a week. You're probably averaging a 15-hour day. Go mode. And everyone was like, but how are you not burning out? And then that's when I was like, well, there's something to be said for variety, for passion, and for just being able to network with different people in different settings. So I felt like those 3 things were really keeping me going. To give you a glimpse of what I was doing, I was a kindergarten teacher at the time. I was waitressing. I was managing a coffee house. I was teaching women's kickboxing classes and tutoring in all my free time. And then I was just kind of writing on the side because I really was seeing something that just resonated with me so much through kickboxing. And that was something I did personally for my own practice and then started teaching. And I just saw a lot going on with women. And it was this connection of this, like, yeah, it's a great workout, but there was this like empowerment piece and this like mind, body, spirit, whatever, all the encompassing. It was just so different than anything I'd ever experienced. And watching the transformation mentally, physically for women was even more so. Like it wasn't just like, I want to lose 10 pounds. It was like, we're doing that. And it's like, I healed my relationship. It's like this, it's this duality that it was like empowering women in their everyday life outside of the mat. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wow, I really love being a part of this experience and speaking specifically to women, being a woman myself. And so I went from that, I started writing about it. And in that field of passion, of empowerment, one thing led to another. All of a sudden my work was being found. And then I was contributing to the leading internet, women's success platforms. Then I just consolidated and then I developed Hustle Pretty to bring all my work into one place. But it's been a journey.
I love that. It's interesting as we'll bounce around here, but I think a lot of things are true for women who not only women, when we say hustle, we're going to talk about that because you talk about it in your bio, but it's something I can tell that you already understand the feminine side of hustle, because what I've been learning is to undo this masculine energy I've had for so long, because I was in hustle mode, burnout mode, survival mode. And that was my masculine side kind of kicking in, like, you got to work. And now I'm in this place where I'm like, I shouldn't be tired. I've, not pushed myself the way I used to. I've shifted, but now it's like, I'm a little bit tired and I can't go back to the old ways. So I have to learn that creative side again and get back into my voice. And there's a lot of women that are experiencing that because, a lot of us do come from, we hustle. Some of the most successful people I know had 3 to 5 jobs. I remember I've always had 2 jobs since high school. I always was picking up extra shifts. I was cleaning houses on the side. I was working at Bath and Body Works, temporary, seasonal. I was doing all the things, right? And now I think about that. If I had to go back to that, oh my God, like I would be crying. I'd be crying every night. And I have a beautiful job and career and I'm able to do fun projects and things like that. But it's like, I'm doing things that make me happy. So all the things I pick up, I've noticed I'm in this creative mode, and that's coming into the feminine energy, which you do tap into and you talk about a little bit, even though you might not say it specifically. I can read your bio and know exactly where you're coming from, and that you've worked with so many women. It's something women got away from. Women started, working multiple jobs out of the home. They wanted to provide as well. There's nothing wrong with women providing, but we have this balance where we were kind of losing the balance. Like the men were like, okay, well, women are working like triple what we are, plus they're at home, and then they're working and they're exhausted and they need us. and we need them, but we're like in this weird push and pull. So let's just talk a little bit about some of your projects you've done. You've been a ghostwriter. You've worked for magazines. You've done a lot of things in the women empowerment space. Let's talk about, maybe your favorite project you've got to do, something that may be altered. Because there's always a time where it was like, this specific moment is the reason I went this way. Like in a totally so what was that moment for you, do you think? Was it one defining big moment or a specific story?
That's really a good question, because it almost felt like this accumulated. I totally understand what you're saying about like the feminine side of the hustle. And that was always so resonating for me, and not to say that masculine mode wasn't there, because with that kind of lifestyle, it has to be in a certain dynamic, but it was also this underlying, like, this is my purpose, and like having a higher purpose. Cause I think that's the motivator that's going to get you out of bed. Yes. And I don't know if you experienced this too, but it's like, you also knew when that was like coming to an end. Like, I feel like sometimes women and people in general just have this expectation of like, I have to do one thing. I can't have more than one passion. I can't have more than one job. I need to get here, build up the ladder, stay here for my whole life. But as humans, we're constantly evolving. We're constantly experiencing new things. And therefore your passions are going to develop and your lenses are going to change based on experiences, and what you're passionate about today might not be what you're passionate about 10 years from now. So I'm always like open to those quote, like tower moments when things fall apart, because I always know that means something's really just around the corner. Because the more like, you always get that gut instinct, like, I'm not really feeling this anymore, but you're afraid to let go, or it's like, it's something that you've done for so long, so it's comfortable. And it's like, am I right? Or is that my logical mind? Is that my intuition? What's going on? And then I feel like the universe makes it so clear in that question. And all of a sudden, like, it'll either just crumble, crash, and you're like, all right. And then the new opportunity is just like right there. And it's so obvious. So I've learned to just, from the feminine side, I used to get so anxious when I'd feel that. And now I'm just like trying to fall into like, trust it and see what happens. But as far as like one big defining moment, I know in like my personal life, I hit like a personal rock bottom where I was like, I kind of came to a realization that I was the masculine side of your hustle here, creating my own chaos. And I was getting very comfortable in creating my own chaos because it was just there. And then when this moment just literally slowed my entire life down, and I sat there and it was like, you need to get really, really clear about what it is you want to be doing. Because it was that feeling of I was running in place, and not to say that it didn't serve that time of my life, but it was like I was just running in place and getting nowhere. Like I was equally committed to my comfort zone and my future vision, that it was like I was just stuck in the middle, not really gaining any traction. So that's when I became very committed to like, this is the vision. I want to write. I want to reach more women. I want to do this. I want to go all in and stop fearing what that looks like. And the second I committed to that and energetically just put all everything I had into it, it took off, and now I'm full-time copywriting. It actually just so happened to pan out a week before the pandemic hit that I received the internship, and then everything shut down. I didn't go back to any of my old jobs. I ended up just getting the copywriting position and started ghostwriting and freelancing and contributing to magazines, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And I think that there's always everyone has to hit a rock bottom. I think rock bottoms are great. So one of the biggest things for me is about a year ago, I hit a complete rock bottom, business and personal. And it was coming for a while. It was something I was praying for. I just didn't get what I wanted. Like, I was like, well, I didn't want it that way, but I guess this is what it's going to be. And I think if people could be more self-aware, and I talk about this a lot with my friends who do healing, and they do a lot of work on the spiritual realm. I always am talking about this self-awareness. And when you can have a really high self-awareness, like listening to your body tells you things, even when it's not necessarily just body stuff, like making decisions. Your body is there, like saying no, yes, no, yes. And you have to be really aware of that. And I think when you can tap into that level of awareness, a lot of things don't get. Somebody was just messaging me, and I'll give you an example. I just burnt chicken. Like, chaos happens all the time. So let's talk about chaos and how we can kind of maneuver. And then we're going to get into one of your posts today, because I really enjoy that. And that subject's going to hit us hard. So chaos happens all the time. We are in a world of chaos. I mean, if you want to control it, that's cute, but there's no such thing as control, but it's how we handle it and react to it. So today I was getting ready for this and I had like 50 things on my mind, right? And all of a sudden I was taking a selfie, which is hilarious. And I noticed my entire kitchen was smoking. I let it completely, I forgot I was cooking chicken, totally burnt the chicken. Alarm starts going off and I'm trying to get all this smoke out of here before this podcast. I'm laughing because I'm like, this is funny, but it could have ruined my day. Think about how many times we've let really small things ruin our day. But I was just explaining to someone, she asked me how I was doing. And I literally told her all the things. And I'm like, this, and this. And I said, but. I said, it's not as bad as it sounds. I said, everything's actually going well. I'm just very aware of these things. So I can say like, well, I don't feel good about this or this or this or this, but I'm not upset. I know that this is temporary. I know that pain is temporary. I know that things are shifting. And a lot of the times, and something you've probably experienced too, you just talked about it, is when it gets really weird or bad and you're like, why am I being tested? That's when you have to step back and go, something's coming, something big. This is your moment to rise up. This is your moment that something's going to shift, a windfall's coming. You know, there's so many things, but being aware is everything. And if more people could tap into their intuition, into their body, and just allow some things to come through and sometimes just go through, it ends up being beautiful. And it's really tough when you're going through rough times because you want to cry and you want to have pity parties and you're like, my life sucks. But it's really, that's part of the journey. And I think that's what makes it really incredible. So I love that you've contributed to so many different things. I definitely, you know, I resonate with the ghostwriting, the copywriting. I resonate with the empowerment movement, but I also like that you're not afraid to kind of say it and share your voice. Today, you talked a little bit about entitlement. Talk about your post and where it came from today so the viewers and the listeners can kind of understand. And let's just talk about it because it's a hot topic and people get scared to say stuff, but you can say things in the right way. So let's just talk about your post today.
Sure. So the post exactly says entitlement at an all-time high, morality an all-time low. What a dangerous combination, with the emoji of a breaking heart rather, but bleeding heart too. Yeah. Where it sparked from, just my deep morning thought. But I think as the world as a whole is just missing, there's two big factors going on here. There's this over-empowering relationship that's rather unhealthy with the ego. Mm-hmm. And then there's also this lack of taking personal responsibility. And I do think a lot of that is stemming too from the accessibility of social media. And I think social media is a beautiful thing when it can be, and also not so beautiful in another realm. But it's like, if you think of it in terms of personal responsibility, it's like you can go on social media, you control someone's account, and then you can block somebody. Mm-hmm. And if you're in real face-to-face contact, you're probably not going to talk to somebody like that. You don't have the ability to block them in real life.
Right.
And there's just a different connection that happens. Then we have this, and it can or cannot be, but like this instant gratification of someone's liking my post, somebody's accepting me. And as humans, we do desire innately to be accepted in our society and our cultures. And I think social media gives this false sense of this. You can get a really addictive, unhealthy attachment to needing to be liked or needing to receive likes and comments. And it becomes this overwhelming balance, I feel, especially on the interwebs, of not taking personal responsibility and then developing this very unhealthy relationship with your ego. And that's a very, very dangerous level. And I also think it exudes to what we're seeing also going on in the world. It's this displacement of blame. It's this pointing of the finger. It's this not taking responsibility. It's finding someone else to either save or to blame. It's this, no one's looking within. Like we were talking before about this awareness, this self-awareness. And part of being self-aware is like, either, hey, I messed up, or hey, I'm doing great. But it's like some people just don't even have that awareness anymore because they're seeking so much outside validation, where It's like, what's reality and what's not at that point? What's your truth and what isn't? And I think there's just this detachment, and then it's leaving everyone with like no consequence for choice. It's like this mix of like, what is even good and bad? What is even moral and not? And I think people just don't know anymore. It's this very odd place to be.
You opened up several avenues to talk about because, well, ego, we could talk about all day. We'll talk about it. Lack of responsibility, lack of accountability, victimhood. We talk about this a lot on this show and in general. You know, my personal opinion. So I do feel, let's talk entitlement. And we're going to jump into the subjects because it kind of stems all from there. You know, when you look at people and the Olympics were happening, I brought it up on a show. I think you've got this massive amount of people who still do really love the United States. Let's just use the United States as an example. And around the world, as much as people want to think that people hate the United States, they don't. We're still that country that they look to. They want to have freedom. They want to have democracy, right? And so there's this push and pull of, well, I'm supposed to hate this, but I'm supposed to like this. And then, you know, we're protesting and protest. You can protest. I mean, we live in a country where you can do that. That's great. You have freedom of speech. Awesome. But the same country that gives you those rights is the one that we see a lot of people just completely trashing, or I hate it. And it's this, and this is where I come from. I was extremely opinionated as a young adult. I was extremely, I was not afraid to voice my opinions. And it's so funny because over the last 10 years, I've completely shifted on many things I used to be very passionate about. Why? Experience. Okay. And what social media does, so bringing this around. So I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong for expressing extreme passion and whatever the subject is. I will hear it. Here's why. Because I used to be the person that wouldn't. I used to be the person, and now I have those moments because our ego comes in and we want to be right. Like if somebody's challenging what we think is accurate, our ego jumps in and we're like, no. And we're going like this. No, I'm going to type this and I'm going to say this. If we were in person, hell no, you wouldn't talk like that. You wouldn't act like that. You were so right. And there's a lot of funny things like, would you act like this in person? Because you'd be getting punched in the face. Yes, you would. Like if you acted, some of these people get crazy and they get really, it's almost like this cockiness, like this, there's some confidence behind the screen. But if you see that person, let's say Target, are they going to say that to you? No, they won't. If they do, that'd be ballsy. I mean, at least they're saying it to you. But so we have this really weird world right now where we can be warriors on social media. We can be, you can see people who are on social media who are kings and queens of social media, and you meet them in real life, they don't have a personality. Mm-hmm. That's not mean. It's because something gave them that confidence or whatever to be that person, good, bad, or whatever. And so when it comes to social issues of the world and things I used to be so passionate about and how I've shifted completely, it's because experience and learning and hearing other people's perspectives has allowed me to change my mind on some things. And that's going to happen. And it's when I see a younger generation that's so passionate, what I always look at is I'm like, they're passionate and that's great because we want people who have energy that are going to change the world, right? We're in a very interesting time where we're challenging everything. And it's like, you got some people who are challenging, like it's scary, it's crazy. You got some people who are like, no, this is the way. And there's three sides to a story. So there's his, hers, or one person, the next person, and the truth. And the truth does always win. And so where we have to come together is go, that's your truth. And I'm going to hear you. I may not agree with it, but that's okay. Because that's what it's okay to do. Like we can have a debate, we can have a conversation. We do not have to agree, but we can still respect or like each other at the end of the day. That has gone to the wayside. Social media also has got this level where it's basically said, if you don't agree with me, you are 100% wrong and I'm going to block you and destroy your life. And that is where I think we're getting into a really scary stage. And I don't like where we're headed because I think that will end. I think it's going to crash and people are going to fall on their faces with this cancel culture. I talk about it a lot because both people can get canceled. So if you want to cancel somebody, that's fine. Just remember, you can get canceled too, just as quick. Just as quick.
And so many good points here. It's like, I even wrote about a couple weeks ago, it's like, everyone talks about conscious communication, which is what we were saying. Like you can express yourself, and there's a huge difference between reaction and response. And when people are triggered, it turns straight into reaction. And when you're in a reactive state, your brain's in like that fight or flight, and you're not consciously communicating.
Right.
But to pair with conscious communication, you need conscious comprehension. So everyone thinks it's all about the languaging. Like you can talk till you're blue in the face to somebody, and if they're not receiving it, so like one, if you're coming at them in a term of reaction, they're not going to receive it. And what I've also seen flying around social media is just like this quick to label people, it's this side versus that side. It's like, well, how about we start arguing like policy versus policy? Because I think that's where like at a ground level, like everybody wants, I would assume, wants their freedoms, their individual freedoms, the ability to choose, just these really basic things, or freedoms of speech. It's like all these very basic things, but then you start throwing like sides into it, labels, cancel culture, believe me, not them, these reactions. And then now you've taken away conscious communication and comprehension. Nobody's hearing anybody. Everyone's just getting louder and amplifying these voices that if you go to a base level, no one even agrees with, no one even wants, but it's like, you're getting so blinded in hatred, and you're getting so blinded and masked into this belief of like, this is what everyone's saying, so I got to believe it. Like, it's just so much noise, where if you just muted it for a second and connected back to you, everyone's asking for the same thing. That's the part that I'm like, it's so much hypocrisy out there, because I'm like, everybody's pretty much on a base level asking for the same thing, and they don't even realize it. And if we could actually just get down to that understanding, we'd be a lot further along. But right now we're all just firing away, and it is headed in a scary direction. It's like, what kind of progress is going to be made from that state? That energetic state right there, not something I want to be a part of. I'm not interested in that. So yeah, I mean, I wish more people had that self-awareness, as you spoke of, to be able to take that step back and actually communicate at a level people could even comprehend. Cause I'm with you. I'm like, I'm open to hearing you. I'm open to hear, even if I don't agree with you, I'm open to hearing your side, because you don't know until you hear, and you can't validate that until you do your own research. And it's like, if you just take in everything and sponge it up, you can make those decisions. But when you're just so closed-minded that I'm right, I can't hear you, and people are coming at you disrespectfully, like no one's hearing anybody. And that's where there's a huge disservice, because then you're just blocking out different perspectives and different viewpoints.
And again, that comes down to ego, because we want, like when we're being threatened, our brain wants to protect us. So number one, when we get threatened, and that could be our ego getting threatened, our brain only knows one thing: how to keep Shylo alive. That's what my brain does. And that's what your brain does, keeps you alive. So it doesn't know anything else but to keep you alive. And then that's where reactions come in. And if you're not self-aware and you don't know what's happening in your brain, in your body, that's where these huge miscommunications come in. That's where you see people fighting back and forth. I mean, family members not talking. Now we use the term Nazi like it's nothing. And it's like, no. You can't label somebody something that you probably don't even know what it is. I mean, half these kids don't even know what actually happened in the Holocaust. And I say kids, I mean a very young generation, but I'm like, we're erasing a history that is quite honestly very important to remember for a reason. We don't want to go back to this, but we're starting to do things right now that are very reminiscent of Nazi Germany. Now, I'm not calling anyone that, and I'm not labeling a person a dictator. I'm saying in general, like when we start throwing out labels, and when we start canceling entire groups of people, and when we start forcing things on people, that gets scary. And I think a lot of people don't remember, it didn't just go from one day people woke up and there was concentration camps. This was a slow roll. And it took a lot of propaganda, and it took a lot of things to push people in a direction to actually get to that point. So we just have to remember to be aware of things. We do have to educate ourselves. We do have to learn all sides of history, not just one. And I do agree with that. I mean, there are things, I just had this conversation the other day. there was not a lot of, there was Black history taught in schools, but was there a lot? Not really, because when I actually branched out on my own and I started learning about some really incredible people, George Washington, I want to say Carver. Am I right on that? I want to be accurate, but I mean, like some of these incredible people, inventors and writers, and they didn't teach us about that necessarily in school. So yes, there is parts of history we need to bring into the books, but we should not be erasing history. And that's a big one to me. I want to hear all history. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. There's a reason, but we should be giving that more to our kids, not just saying, well, I only want this part of history put in it. That doesn't work either. We have to talk about the whole thing, even if it's not pretty. And I do agree with that part. And I think that's important. Coming back to kind of the cancel culture and things are shifting, I do see a really big ray of hope in all this. So in time in history, there has been many civilizations that came and went. And they came and went because they got to a point, kind of like where we're getting to, of this crazy boiling point, and the civilization fails. That doesn't mean people die. So I don't want to say this like doomsday is coming. I think what we're seeing is the collapse of something old and bringing on a new. And I think you go through a lot of chaos and mess. I think at the end of this, it will all work out. And that's my opinion. But that's what I see. I see a positive light in all this. So what is your thoughts on where we are, this entitlement thing? Because the last part of entitlement that I want to say too is I've been to other countries, and I will tell you, I still would rather be in America. And I think people really need to get out from behind the screen. I think people really need to see other parts of the world and maybe go experience them and understand the blessings you have. Because if you're able to sit on a phone like this, that's $1,000, and talk about how much you hate everything in your life, how poor you're a victim, you're this, you're really missing what's important. You're really missing it.
Well said. So well said. It's exactly that. Oh gosh, you said it so beautifully. I'm like, I don't even have the words to say it like that. But it's so true. Like, it's, if you sit on any marketing meeting, it's what sells: fear, pain, emotion. And this, like, going back to where we started there, it's like not to label anything as Nazi, but to say like that there aren't similar mimic behaviors or things going on that we should be of heightened concerned about. Right. It goes back to that. It goes back to that because it's like, if you're silenced in fear, if you're silenced in, it's, how do you get everyone to think it's okay? Because you read it in a history book and you're like, oh, I would never get to that point. Who would think that's okay? But here we are, and you can develop a side out of fear, pain, emotion, where people think it's okay. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we find so many people arguing two extremist sides in the name of health. So I'm like, so at the very baseline, we all want health. And it's like in a very warped way, it's like we all agree and we're all fighting for the same thing, but we're not getting there because we're cancel culturing, we're censoring these very dangerous behaviors where it's like you're clapping for it when it's in the name of someone you don't prefer, but don't think that table can't flip and it become you. So it's like you got to be very conscientious of the behaviors they're supporting if it's backed by, quote, ego, hatred, anger. It's I'm right, they're wrong, this self-righteous place, because that's a very slippery slope to start sliding down. Like, I don't care who you are, you can say what you want to say because freedom of speech, and I support that. I don't have to support what you're saying, but I support that you have freedom of speech. It's like that simple to me. But gosh, carry on.
No,
I just wanted to interject with that. But
the entitlement thing has been brought up several times, and the reason I was excited that you posted that is I'm like, let's talk deep into it. Not only are we're dealing with some dangerous activities. I don't care what side you're on. There's dangerous things that have ramifications, and I always tell people everything has a consequence, good or bad. So, be mindful of what you say. And another thing that I've noticed when it was really heated a year ago, and I fell prey to this, I got emotional and I let things bother me. The same people who got really emotional and really aggressive are seeing a blowback. And I've witnessed it. I've seen friends have issues getting jobs. And now it's not on the side you would guess. There's a lot of people who are like, let's look at it this way. A lot of business owners are conservative and a lot of business owners are liberal. I'll say it like that. Not everyone is one. So I have friends who were very vocal, and there's nothing wrong with this. You can say what you want, but remember, everything has consequences, no matter what side you're on. And they were very vocal about certain things that happened during the riots. They were very aggressive about how they feel that should have happened, that public destruction should happen. Now we have another side that says, no, I'm on that side. I don't agree, but that's okay. What happened though is about 3 months ago, I noticed a few people, separate people, and I felt for them because I'm like, I've experienced blowback in another way. I've made mistakes too, that couldn't get jobs. They didn't get hired because their social media was extremely aggressive. And they couldn't understand. And they even posted and said, I don't understand what I said. I was just very passionate about my beliefs. I'm like, you can be. But remember, when somebody's going to hire you to represent them, that doesn't mean it's a big company. And this was just a regular 9-to-5 job. You know, this wasn't in an industry per se. It was a regular 9-to-5. And that business owner was like, no. And it's hard because I did feel for that person because I'm like, I might not agree with all your opinions, but that's tough to not get hired. And I'm seeing that more and more. So what's also dangerous about social media is everything you put on there. So remember when I said 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I had different views. I wasn't on social media 15 years ago, but on my Twitter, I've never used Twitter. The only time I did was 5 political posts. And now I deleted them. I deleted them. They were 15 years old. It was right when Twitter came out, maybe not even 15, but I don't agree with that anymore. But I read it and I'm like, God, I don't even agree with myself anymore. So holy cow. Could you imagine somebody going, well, look at, you agreed with this and you were supporting this candidate and you were supporting that. I'm like, but I don't anymore. Like, I don't agree with that person anymore, or that specific issue anymore. Like, it was just crazy to see it. But people also have to understand that everybody's in a different season. Everybody has different experience levels. Everybody's got a different intelligence level, what they mastered in, what they're mastering in. You know, people, you know, I have friends who are communications experts. I mean, that's what they do. It's all about emotional intelligence. They're masters at it. They control their emotions. They get it. Then I have people who absolutely have zero understanding of what emotional intelligence is, and it shows. And that's okay because they're fun, they're fiery, and they're passionate, but they're also young, right? When we're young, screw it. We don't care. We're like, there's no consequences, but there is. And that's part of being young and getting older and having experiences. And it just depends on your emotional maturity. And that's kind of where we are, is getting to this place where we're emotionally mature. We're emotionally intelligent. I talk about it all the time. And that's really what the world needs. The world needs to take a deep breath and start becoming emotionally mature and emotionally intelligent and being able to hear things that are not necessarily what they want to hear, being able to not instantly respond or react, and take a breath, let it process, and it'd be a better world. And I think we're coming into an age where we're going to rapidly shift, and people are seeing it. People are exhausted. People are exhausted. I don't want to see anyone lose a job. I don't care what side you are on. I don't care what you support. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you win. I'm all about win-win. Even to people who I would technically say are my enemies, who don't like me at all, I still want them to win in life, because I don't want to wish any ill on anybody. Nobody deserves to be down. Nobody deserves to be sad, like on those levels, and be hurt by other people. And so as we kind of go into the last part of this, let's talk about emotional intelligence, reactions, how to be better people, better humans, but better women. And I mean, I think women have done such a great job of the empowerment movement, but it's still, we're almost getting to this arrogant phase of it. And I don't know if you see this, like, I'm a woman and you can't touch me. And it's like, wait. We're women. We should be proud. 1,000,000%. Women fought hard to vote. We fought hard to be women. We fought hard to have rights, do the thing, do all the jobs that men can do, but we're still women. And there's that other side of it too. We still need our men. That's really important to me. We still need our men.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, that's kind of been something I've been toying with myself is like, you know, I've done all this work. I've been doing all this work since 2016 in this women's empowerment space. And I was really deeply reflecting because my work in general is always speaking towards exactly that success. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you overcome. I want to see you be resilient. But then I'm seeing this whole other aspect of what women's empowerment is becoming.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't stand behind needing to smash the patriarchy. I, as an empowered woman, like I hold space for empowered men. And as much, and like I was even saying, like, you know, we've come so far as women, and I'm so grateful for those women that came before me who allowed us to be here. But it's like women in the US, about 40% of, there's 40% of women-owned businesses, I think it is, contributing $1.8 trillion. And I'm like, we're dominating in the workforce. And I would love to see us now hold space for men in the personal development field, because we have definitely saturated that area, and that's so beautiful for us, and that we've gone to heal, and now we also get to dominate in our careers. But we're so quick to point the finger at men, and this manifests into relationships, and manifests into all these things that women are so quick to be like, I don't need you, he's so terrible, what a toxic masculinity. And it's like, well, how about you reframe that, and how you're showing up because if you're showing up with that attitude, like what man is, it's getting to be where it's like, to me, I don't want a part in that, because I'm like, I've had phenomenal male mentors throughout my life. I would attribute a lot of my success to men. And I'm like, and it's because of them that I feel empowered as a woman. And I would never want to belittle a man for who he is or what he's doing. And I want to be able, and like, I would speak out about body imaging for women, and I would get more DMs from men struggling with eating disorders. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's so sad to me, where this society hasn't set it up yet, where men are able to be emotionally expressive and we're getting there, but it's not fully there. And I just think it's like women are so advanced in that, or getting to that point, or at least have the tools accessible to them. Whereas like we're shaming men for not being able to, but we also haven't given them the platform for that. So I just would love to see us take that route instead of this, again, egocentric place of like, let's smash it. It's like, that's just out of anger. that's just nothing, even as a person, I would want to back, because I think there's always a really poised and graceful way to solve any problem. Mm-hmm. I don't need to operate out of anger, and not to say that I haven't before, but like, that's a reaction, and I'm really committed to being responsive. So just in the direction that I want to see women go in, I would love to see us be more, accommodating to that side for men. And also just, I think you're right about like the arrogant side of things too. And just like, I do think there's this element of like this exploitation going on as well, where I'd really love in the media as well. And I just like, we can do better. We can do better. And I just think of like these young girls growing up, developing their cognition, we're imprinting them. And like, if we think about the state of the world and where we want it to go, and this glimmer of hope, it lies in our children, and it lies in the next generation behind us. And it, take the responsibility that you want to take. But I'm pretty much want to be there to be that role model, to be that, here's what we want to see as a brighter future, not this kind of scary direction we're headed. But like, let's show them how to consciously communicate. Let's show them how to respond, not react. Let's show them how to respect their body and respect other people and respect others' opinions. That's where I want to see it go.
I agree. I think, well, there's the I don't need men thing. That's interesting. I think people think that that's like making you weak. It's really not. We're designed, there's a reason that there's a man and a woman. Like there's a reason there's these energies. It's energy. Like I wish people would take away some of we're not going into transgender right now. We're not talking about that. I'm saying in energy conversation, we're talking about a masculine energy and a feminine energy. There's men who bring feminine energy. There's women who bring masculine energy. You can have that both sides. So we're not talking about gender things right now. We're just talking about the energies. And to have one, you need the other. Good, bad, dark, light, whatever you want to say. You always have to have a balance in the universe. And this is part of our balance. And when I see women who are totally, and this comes from trauma, a lot of women who have a lot of anger, resentment towards men, it's coming from a traumatic place. There's pain, they've been victims. And we have to understand, okay, I can see that you're hurting. And when we can identify that, we can also understand how to navigate that person and just be like, listen, I might not agree with how you're responding or, projecting, but at the same time, maybe dig a little deeper and go, this person is hurting and I need to understand that. I don't agree with it, but that's a hurt person and they need to go on a healing. But when we talk about the media is pushing this narrative of get naked, be vulgar. That's empowering. And that is not it. That is not the message. And I don't even mean getting naked. I'm all about women's bodies. I think women are gorgeous. Like I do. I'll always say that women are so beautiful. They are no matter what size they are. Women are just naturally, they just have so many things that are like women even think other women are beautiful. Of course, that's the being we were brought with, right? And men are very attractive too. They have different sides. Like things that I think are beautiful in a man are very different, I think, because men, it's not about their part. It's about the whole thing and what they represent. I think men as a whole are beautiful and women are too, but in different ways. We can point out so many features on a woman that we're like, that's beautiful. That's pretty. That's like her shoulders, her eyes, her lips, her boobs, her butt, like women have all these things and men have them too. But for me, I think men as a whole, there's this thing about their energy that makes them really incredible and we're losing it. We lose that because they're getting beat down and truly they are. And I'm not saying that there's not men who do stupid things. Of course there's women who do stupid things. You can't generalize it, but men do deserve to have that space and it's equal, right? It's an equal space, but men do things that women can't and women can do things men can't. We have to start coming back to that. It's okay to say it. It's okay to say it. Right. And that's all right. And I think we just got to stop getting so worked up about dumb stuff. Like, stop getting worked up about it. It's not a big deal. like it's okay. Like, I love men. I'll say that. I love men. Now, do they annoy me? Heck yeah. They drive me nuts because they don't get it. Because they're not me. No, I'm just kidding. Because women operate on a different level and we talk different and we do things different. But men are there to balance it and women are there to balance men. So I just think it's so cute when somebody doesn't think they need a man, but it's like, you're the one person who's probably dying for that little, like a good man to come in and be like, hey, and put his hand on your shoulder and say, hey, I got you. That's what we need. Because women hold the weight of the world. We really do. And I know you know that. And that doesn't mean we're better or worse. You got to think about it. Not only do we have jobs, we're generally usually raising children, keeping the home. So our jobs, it's not that we just went to work. We added a lot. And up here, women get exhausted. And it's so important to talk about these things. This has been an incredible show.
Oh my gosh. There's so many great topics. There's so many more directions I can go with it. It's
we could. But I want everyone to know how to find you. So really quick, and we're going to post this, so don't stress out. But if somebody's listening and they're in their car and they're not looking and they don't know, tell them how they can find you and get a hold of you.
Beautiful. Yes, you can find me on Instagram at my name, Christi Pratte. You can find me at hustlepretty.co on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm on Facebook under my name too. So all pretty simple. Just my name everywhere. You can just find it. But this has been absolutely amazing and lovely. And thank you for being such a light in this world.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. And I'm absolutely loving all your content. I'm probably going to end up working with you on some projects. Just FYI, I'm probably going to talk to you.
I'm game.
I am Shylo Bijou, and you have just hustled pretty for 45 minutes with us. And I absolutely love it. Christi Pratte, thank you so much. We are going to be connecting with you. We're going to have people connecting with you. And this is probably not our last episode. We'll probably come back around and find another thing to talk about.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine.
Oh my gosh, me too. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.